All right. So this is a presentation. Let me see if I can get it all going here. Um, all right. So this is a presentation that we gave at the ANTHC. It was Sean and I, and it was basically kind of aimed at improvement advisors, clinical applications coordinators, anybody who's trying to do best practices or be a change agent within their facilities. And what we're doing is we're trying to encourage looking at design. How would a designer approach these, whether it's people or a system or electronics or whatever. And it was a really fun class that we gave, and a really fun little slide deck that we ran through. So I just wanted to share that real quick to go over with, I'm going through these old slides, and rather than just emailing people slide decks, it'd be easier to give them a link and actually have a little voiceover to go with it. So it's, because a lot of those are just images. So we start out with the elephant in the room, and that's how I think designers look at things. They really try to address the elephant in the room and try to, create a design that works with that. So one of the things this is really fascinating to us for is if you kind of look up here in the top right hand corner is Anchorage. Well, our service units are way out here in St. Paul and St. George. Those are just two of them down further south. We have Unalaska. We also have Atka and Nikolsky. This is a lot of distance, so it really forces us to look at things differently, if you will. And we have to be creative and do things with the resources that we have. And a lot of times we don't have, we don't have a big old hospital with an ER and with, if there's a problem, we can just send them over to the specialist. We have a lot of distance, and sometimes even simple things like getting providers out there is difficult, or getting a patient into town, very difficult, even internet connection and stuff like that. So what we're going to do is we're always kind of forced to focus on why we're doing things and how we're doing things. So what is design, first of all? When it pops into your mind, what do you think of? I know I have like Tumblr accounts, and I look at those, and I have interior design. I'm always looking at that, or I have cool chairs that I'm looking at. I mean, it is design. A lot of people would say something like this when they think of design. They think of like architecture, and that's good. That's great. But this is what I would kind of think design is, and it might be hard. Your screen might be cut off a little bit, but a lot of it is really, it's the tip of the iceberg is what we see is the deliverable, but the whole entire system is really where we're going to apply our thinking and how we do things. So on the right hand side you have like Windows Lumia phone, but really that's just a deliverable, but really what's coming on with that is the whole ecosystem. So whether you're on Android or iOS or Windows, there's a lot going on behind the scenes that you don't think about, but they do. How are they all going to interact? Think of it as ecosystems as we move forward. So the first question you ask, and I always think this is amazing that it's not always asked: are there humans involved in anything you do? Of course there is. Sometimes I think like technology really gets what we can do with technology is amazing, but we have to wait for humans who are a little bit slower to evolve, to adapt to this technology, to interface with this technology, to interact with this technology. So sometimes the technology bus actually has to turn around and go pick up the humans. So we see, when we look at like iOS and Apple, they were really good at figuring this out, not only just onboarding people onto their devices with like the iPod, which, I got an iPod with music onto it, and then afterwards like, it's an iPhone, well I already got the music over here, and this thing has this touch screen. I mean, they changed the whole entire market and the way things are done. So I think really it is you're designing around humans and their behaviors, and that's what we really have to think about when we think about design, and that's what every designer thinks about. So the user is always right. Understand the user. So if it's about people, if it's about humans, and they're always right, if that's fundamental, you got to know that they're always right, then that means we have to understand them. It's just fundamental. So if we're going to focus on that, we're going to focus, you start hearing these words, user experience. And and there's more jobs now, user experience tech or CIO, or these people are actually designing your user experience and how you interface with their products. So UX has become huge. So how your product works in the real world, or how a person feels about using your product. It's perception too. So a lot of times I like to throw this slide up, because we say it's about, in healthcare we say it's about the patients, and how they're always right and all this. Normally in the conversation it will come up right about now as well. The patient is involved with that care too, and it's about them managing. Yes, it is. This is true. Uh, so we would throw these numbers up here, and we'd kind of take a look at these, and this is where we'd really start to hear or get a little bit of the feedback on well, it's the patient's responsibility. It's not our responsibility. In the private sector, if they looked at it that way, or if you were selling a product per se, you would never look at it. Well, it's Apple doesn't say, oh, it's up to the people to buy our product. We can't make them go out and buy our product. They would not be Apple. It would not work. So when we look at this, we got to think of things as like it's a two-way street. And right now, in a lot of ways, we could be better. We're failing, really. So this is where we really start to think. Okay, so this is a great. I can't even remember all this stuff on these slides are not mine, by the way. I've bagged them from different places and put them all together in collage. So I standing on the shoulder of giants, if you will. But this one was really captivating. I saw this somewhere, like on Twitter or something, and I've been using it ever since, and it absolutely helps and drives me in everything I do. Engagement is greater than adoption, is greater than usage, is greater than metrics. Think about that. So when Apple wants to sell something, or if Android or whoever, and I don't know why I keep using phones for this, but in any kind of product, if you want to sell something, that would be the end part. This would be your metrics, sales and revenue, But if you focus on that first part, engagement, the adoption will come and the usage will come, and you'll get those sales. You'll get that money. You'll get the providers using electronic health record, if you will. So this is where we say that, and this is how it kind of breaks down. Engagement is an enthusiast. It's an evangelist. It's a fanboy. This is somebody that's passionate about that product or what they're doing. Adoption is just loyalty. Like, hey, I like this. I like Cerner, or I like the IHS electronic health record. Usage is compliance. That's saying, hey, I got to do this because my boss and them are grading me on it, and it's part of my job. It's job duties. And metrics, a lot of times, are used for accountability. And I spoke a little bit about this in feedback and a little bit in game dynamics. Sometimes they're not used for improvement. They're used for accountability. They're kind of almost more punishment related. So let's look at some different things here. I'm trying to change that. So just know that good design equals good experience. So focusing on experience. Right. So here's the different examples. Let's say your task is to design a vase, or design a better way for people to enjoy flowers in their home. Design a better search result, or design a better way to learn about a topic. One is experience focused, and one is product or task focused. We want to go on to the latter. We want to be experience focused. So you've probably seen this in some of my other slides. I think I got this from a book from Steven Anderson. I can't remember but he's basically broke it down, talking about there's different ways to look at this pyramid. You have like tasks orientated focuses, or you have experience orientated focus. So this would be, first you want your thing to be functional. You want it to be reliable, and you want it to be usable. Then we get to the point where we want it to be convenient. So a good product should have like all these things. So when we look at like mobile devices now, where they're a watch and a radio and your music and your calling device and all these things all mix into one, they're kind of doing that. They're at the convenient level. When we make things pleasurable, when you're just constantly looking at your cell phone and liking it and liking the way the UI it moves, and the way I got this, and oh nice, I'm reading an article. And then when we make it meaningful, when we make our tools that they absolutely, not only are they meeting all these other things, but they're doing something like, saving lives, like electronic health records should be doing. We have to make sure we can function at all these other levels: functional, reliable, usable, convenient, pleasurable, and meaningful. If we can do that, if we can get this past this threshold, if you will, we have a good product. So how do you do that? You increase motivation, that's psychology, and you remove friction as much as possible. That's usability. We avoid this. We avoid solutioneering. And we overthink things so many times. And when you're in design or you're looking at what you're doing, just cut to the chase. Get down to what action do you want people to do, and how do you kind of like reward that action. And I don't mean monetarily. I mean, how do you make that pleasurable? How do you make that experience fun? So, and this is probably something I should take out of the slide deck. It's a little too much, but really, it's how we muddle everything. Like, if you look at this, the person wants a tire swing, and then we go through all this administrative garbage, if you use malarkey, and everybody has a different vision and a different perspective, but really we're not listening to what the patient wants or the customer wants or whatnot. We're listening to what we think it is. So how do we get there? We do why. A great example of, like, here's an example of ladders of abstraction. When I'm doing my contracting work, I want to track my time. And if I was to say, well, why do I want to track my time? If I was to go back a level, why do I want to track my time? And this is again another thing I took from Steven Anderson. Why do I want to track my time? Well, I want to figure out what I'm doing with it. I want to make better estimations of my time. Well, why do I want to make better estimations of my time? So I could hang out with my family more. So really, why do I want to know what I'm doing? Is for better family time. So that's my focus. Just get it out there in the open. Let everyone know that you want to do something like that. So if it's in patient care or whatnot, cut to the chase. Use ladders of abstraction. So this is a great example of design, and I'll give you a little backstory about that. I can't remember whether it was in Kenya or no. I think it was a little further north. Basically, there's a lot of money that was spent on incubators. The incubators went out, and they could drastically see that it had impact. It had a high level of impact. But after about a year, the numbers started to change again. They're having higher infant deaths and stuff like that. So they sent designers out to take a look. Well, what happened was these incubators, these very expensive machines, were breaking down. Well, the people who need the incubators in the first part didn't have, they need the money. That's why they were volunteered or donated to them. Well, when they broke down, they didn't have money to fix them or to pay for tech support or anything like that. So these designers went out and they started to look around at the area. And when they're looking at the area, they thought, okay, what do they have a lot of around here? And they noticed there's a lot of old jalopies driving around. And they said, okay, well, how do they keep those cars running? And then they noticed there was a lot of auto mechanic shops. So there's a lot of skill set locally on how to put together cars and keep them running. So they said, well, let's design an incubator around car parts, and that's exactly what this is. You have batteries, and you got headlights. The headlights are going to keep it warm. So they designed an incubator based on car parts that they could fix out there in the field. That is good design. Here's another example of good design. You guys all filled out those lists where you have to put the little commas in and separate and all this other stuff. Well, let's say the goal or the objective is to get these algorithms going. They want to have an actual better experience for you. So they know that they have to get as much of that information from you as possible to generate a better algorithm. Good thought. But if they were just to take that a step back, how do you get people to engage in that? How do you get people to engage more and have a better experience up front to give them a better experience in the other end? I think they would have came out with a better design. So this is like I Heart Music, or I can't remember where this is from. But if you look at the other one, much simpler than creating a list. So one is focused really on the user. The one with the little, you get to hit a like button, and there's a couple of things going on here. One is you're seeing faces and people, image recognition, and that's we are drawn to that. But another thing is it's just so dang easy to click like. So you just already had like, Beatles, like, yep, I like them. I guess it's something like times 10 is what you're going to get. So if you want people to engage in action, you're going to get 10 times more response out of designing your system differently than, let's say, the common one and make them jump through the hoops. So here's an example of good design. Nature has evolved over the years. Nature always has good design. I bring 2 apples to work every day just because I can throw them in my backpack. I can eat them when I want. I can eat them. There's no tearing of garbage or recycling or anything like that. Just really chuck it out in the grass if you want to. But basically, nature has good design, and it evolved that way. But we are different in terms of, yes, we are from nature, but our technology and our environments are moving so fast that we don't have hundreds, thousand years to evolve to it. Technology is changing weekly, monthly, yearly. So here's an example of how we don't evolve too well or how we don't adapt too fast. So this is the Safeway gas station over in Huffman, and I always thought this was very funny. I go to these things, and 9 times out of 10, I'm baffled. I'm totally confused. I'm embarrassed. I look around to see if anyone sees me. I put my card in the slot. I got that much. That thing is intuitive. It's like going into a door of the bathroom. It's either push or it's pull, right? Well, this one is card, go in. That's intuitive. And then from here, I don't know what to do. So I'm supposed to hit basically enter, right? So my brain goes green. All right, now that's pay outside, now that's pay inside. And then I kind of scroll over and I see yes or no, and I'm like, maybe it's enter is over here in that block, grayed out. But to make things even more confusing, they have another whole keypad down here. So it's like you're all over the place. It's like one big hot mess. So bad design. Let's make it simple. Green yes, red no. Here's our EHR. What we're trying to do is streamline an EHR and make it a little bit simpler. Kind of make it something that you can grab onto and utilize with your thumbs. If you're kind of becoming more, if you're using tablets more in your clinic. But one of the main things we did is our opening page had like 128 different things to click, and we tried to scrap as much as that as possible. We really said, what do you use on here? And let's measure that some way, but let's look, what are you really using? If you're only using this one menu item once every 4 months, let's get rid of it. And so we try to make a simpler EHR. And that process, this innovation process, and you'll see these things a lot. A lot of times you just run things in parallel. You just try 3 or 4 or 5 different things, and you have to constantly be ready to fail. I mean, that's what you do is you fail. If you want to innovate and change a system and really look at a way to design something, you are making multiple designs and failing multiple times until you find that one thing that works. And then you go out and you branch off of that, and you have 5 more designs, and you find the one thing that works, and you just keep going along. One of the quick things you can also ask yourself, does a 5-year-old understand this? If you watch the Khan Academy, I was always amazed how well that guy can present. Whether you're a nuclear physicist or a 5-year-old, he got everybody motivated and listening and captivated to what he's saying. That's a skill set, I believe, and I think it starts actually with the 5-year-old. That's the first one, and then you try to have good content along the way. Here's an example of something that we might do with a patient is give them something horrible and crappy and bad handwriting that's not really simple to grasp, but maybe there's a different way to design that, such as the one on the right. And another thing, we can do this in our EHRs. So we can redesign our electronic health records. We can basically come out and make a pick list where it's quicker and you can pick multiple things and just say you spoke to somebody for 20 minutes rather than go in and out and in and out and in and out over and over again. We can make these pick lists. For example, if you're working on your GIPR measures, you can make a pick list geared towards that. Let's say we were part of a quality improvement project with Jessica Leston and Brig Riley, and we wanted to create an easy place where they can just go in and order some of the tests that they were doing to give us credit for that. You can redesign your electronic health record to actually be better, and that's what we did. So the question again is, what actions do you want people to engage in? Think about that, and I'll give you an idea of what design looks like in your own your own home. I want my son to eat his cereal, right? I know what he likes. He likes brown sugar, he likes bananas, he likes cranberries, he likes milk, and he likes this in his oatmeal. So my goal is to get him to eat his oatmeal. But maybe that's not his goal of what he wants to do. And so if we design this task around experience, it's different. So I can literally put all those things in his bowl, give that to him, and he still won't eat it. He'll have a couple bites and go, I'm done. If I give it to him like this, in a way that he can interact and he can get to have a little bit of control, a little autonomy and mastery, he gets to go ahead and put some of the brown sugar in, some of the bananas in, some of this, add a little milk, eat it up, try a little different combination next time. He eats it every single time. It's a win-win, right? My goal is to get him to eat his cereal. He gets to play with his food and mess around with it and have a good time and interact with it. He has his autonomy. This is a prime example of something simple at home when you focus on the user, my son, and his experience and how to make something or design something that's a little bit better. So this is a really good video actually called Connecting. It's like on Vimeo. You can go look it up. And it talks about a lot about design. I'm not going to click on that here because it's like forever long, kind of like this presentation. But the bottom line is if we really want to get that engagement, we have to focus differently on how we're doing it, and what we want to do is set the stage for people to perform. And now I'll leave you with one little tidbit real quick. Trigger routine reinforcement. So let's take a look at that. So think right now about something, a habit that you want to create. What we're going to do is we're going to anchor that habit to an existing habit, and then we're going to reinforce it. So let's say you want somebody to drink a glass of water every night. Well, one of the best things you can do is fill a glass of water up, put it right by your toothbrush, because you know you already brush your teeth every single night, or floss is another example, right? So now the person goes in, they see that glass of water, they have a visual reminder. They might not drink it because it's been sitting there all day. Pour it out. They might pour it up, drink the glass of water. After a while, you could actually almost remove the one, and the drinking the glass of water will exist. Think about that in your clinic. What is working, and how do we attach to that? How do we anchor to that? And then how do we reinforce it? You cannot do anything without giving that feedback back to the people that you're working with. And I think that's about it. So I hope you guys enjoyed the slideshow. Thanks.